Hi. Today's topic is 5 common questions. I'm answering 5 common questions about the conflicts that we have with our mothers, or at least the questions that I am asked several times a week in my private practice. I'm Sana Karpalati, sanakarpalati.com. I'm an alchemist, a yoga teacher, and a heart math coach. So along with the private work that I do, I lead retreats, teach yoga, and produce guided audio programs. I just started a YouTube channel a couple of days ago where you can access a complimentary sleep audio that will literally put you to sleep anytime you need it. There's also an interview on there about surgery and recovery empowerment that was recorded a couple of years ago through with the Journal of Lifestyle Medicine, and look for other helpful things in the upcoming future as well. So the topic today is mother and the common questions that I am asked several times a week in my work. So our mothers live within us, in our cells, in how we breathe, in the habits and the patterns that shape us, even in our language patterns. We mirror their health, and their emotions live within our hearts. In other words, mother shaped you, all of us, our worldview, and even how we live. Until you make a conscious decision to carry forward what it is that you choose to carry forward, and also what you want to leave behind. Now, this is a big topic that is very, very dear for me for many reasons. For my own personal loss as a child, I'm also a mother, and also because I work with mom issues of all kinds, from narcissistic mothers to abuse, neglect, grief, loss, tragedies of all kinds in my work several times a week. So I thought it was fitting to discuss this topic this week in light of Mother's Day. But as I thought about the topic as related to the work that I do, I got a bit overwhelmed because there were so many directions in which I could go. The topic just has so much weight and heat to it. So I thought that I would just focus on common questions that I'm asked in my sessions. So I want to give you a little bit of a perspective first, at least from how I view things. So mother is the first relationship we have on the planet. She is our teacher, our world, and she influences our lives today, whether she is alive or she has died. So her presence or lack of presence is felt within us in ways that we don't even realize or connect to. So whether we miss her or harbor anger and resentment, we will revisit these issues throughout our lives through various milestones. Sometimes we don't realize that the struggles we are having today are a direct result of early experiences that were very foundational. And what I'm saying can feel overwhelming for a mother of any age. You might start feeling a little guilt or worry or regret or concern about yourself, asking questions like, what did I do or not do? Did I cause my child to do this or that? Was I enough? So you might be thinking, well, this is another blame mom lecture. Well, in this work, because these early patterns reside in our neurology and our deep consciousness in the subconscious mind, an early or inherited trauma can reveal itself in the work that I do because of how I funnel and focus in, because These early life experiences are housed in our neurology, in the body, in our language, and also how we live. So I inform clients as we move into these processes that we look for facts. And as an adult, it's our individual responsibility to carry forward what it is that we want to carry forward into our lives, leaving what we choose behind us. I'm going to give you an example here. Let's say that mother was a China doll. Okay, she was very controlling, perfectionistic. She was angry a lot and very intolerant of, little kids stuff. So she was highly reactive to any emotional outbursts, tears, anger, frustration on the part of the child. So she suffocates the child emotionally. She becomes highly critical. So the child really can't ever do enough or anything right in this circumstance. In response, you can probably guess that when the child's child's emotions are suppressed, that the child is going to be carrying a lot of tension. So you might notice aggression or resistance or hostile outbursts, of course. And then, of course, the child is punished for misbehavior when it's actually an attempt to release tension. So mom's hardened crust actually prevents emotional closeness and creates anxiety and like a fidgetiness and frustration within the child. But the child's response is the child's behavior is actually in response to the environment, mother's own struggles. The China doll mother is very protective of her own emotions, has great difficulty being close or revealing her own insecurities. Now, when that shows up in my work, I have to wonder, okay, what happened in mom's life to create an interactive pattern in that way? Here's the key. It's not about blame. However, okay, that her interaction with you is going to have a consequence. And as an adult, we have more grown-up eyes, greater, deeper wisdom, more life experience with a wide variety of people. And from those vantage points and perspectives, you can step back, gain insights, and also decide on the best resolution for you. And that's what I facilitate in the work. So we can learn new ways to set boundaries, to express ourselves, and also to find other ways to connect with other people, especially women on the planet, especially when mom didn't have it to give us in any way. So in my own life, when my mom died when I was a child, I found myself playing this game that I didn't realize what I was doing until well into adulthood. So I grew up in Steubenville, Ohio, and so there was this place where we used to go to lunch called the Green Mill or Sam's. There was two restaurants right next door to each other. And back in the day, a popular lunch was a cherry Coke with probably canned gravy on top of French fries. And I had my share of probably pounds and pounds of French fries. But anytime the waitress would come to me and say, honey, can I get you something else? Can I get you a cherry Coke? A part of me would open my heart and I would take in this loving care from her as a way of kind of filling the void of the loss that I felt with my mom. Or if I went to a department store and a woman helped me. So anywhere I went on the planet, I would take in these kind of bits and pieces of other women who cared for me in the way that my mom would have. So in this work, you can always find facts about about the family history. And there's always a solution, especially in how I work with the solo constellation work that I do. Even in the most dire circumstances that someone has grown up with, and I've had some really difficult experiences with clients or situations with clients, as long as the individual is willing to allow them. So relationships can be restructured, they can be healed, reset, even when mom is not involved. Now, as I said in my email, or not my, but my post yesterday, this isn't about blaming mom. However, there can be consequences to the life of the child who grew up into an adult repeating the same responses and patterning that is indicative of that wounding when we were younger. So through the eyes of someone who has done an extensive amount of mother work myself, and who I work with these issues several times weekly, I find that I can follow the pattern to see what is it, if there is indeed a connection to early life experiences. So when we have conflict, we can turn mom into a saint or curse her daily, even though we don't realize where that comes from or why. But it is really important for us to see our mom for who she is and what was, as a means to discover the true nature of her abilities to actually be a mother and the influence that she had in our lives. Some questions that you might explore would be, who was your mom as a young woman? And what did she actually carry into this relationship of being a mom? Okay, what happened? How was her relationship? What happened in her family growing up? There are parts of our mothers that we may not like or agree with or never even know. We may even find ourselves mirroring being depressed or angry like mom, and repeating patterns that we don't really like that she does. So it's also true that, what we reject in our parents, we also reject in ourselves. So pay attention to that, because as I said, when we're children, we mirror that environment, but then we also carry it forward as we grow up. So when we're trapped in these in these wounds from childhood that can typically go back a generation or so, because where did they start? What happened in her life? We lose ourselves and we can't see any of the good or allow any of the love that is in the environment. So this work can facilitate that shift in anyone's life. So it's through, excuse me. So it's through this work that we can renew the truth about our lives and the impact that these early years had on our lives, and eventually open our hearts to them. So there's a somebody, I remember reading this a long time ago, but I don't remember who said it. But the statement was that until we complete our relationships with our parents, we cannot be complete within ourselves. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you need professional help. But once the situation or how you feel internally is released or resolved, your life can change. In my work, it took me a long time to get to the place where I just do the work and then release it, because there are things that I could have never planned. For example, I've had a couple clients who found their soulmates, or anxiety that literally fizzled within a couple of days after a session. And one male client who literally cleaned out his entire apartment to start his life as a man who was no longer tethered to his mother. So there are many styles of parenting and mothering, and we become triggered as we become parents ourselves. So let's take a look at these questions. Now, these questions pop up all the time in my work, and I have my answers to them, but of course they're not absolute. So the first question that I'm asked, and this is the one that I'm asked more often than not, and many of you can probably guess what it is that I worry that I'm damaging my kids. Am I? Well, here's my response. Yes, no, maybe. It's hard to say. We carry from our early lives, what we carry from our early lives moves forward just as it moved from behind you into your life. Children mirror their parents. We all have bad days and difficult periods in our lives. It's about the consistency of how much stress, tension, and trauma is there, and how much recovery occurred. See, perfect parenting doesn't exist, but it is also it's also possibly reflective of a wounding of either during these early years or mom, because it doesn't exist. When difficult days root themselves in everyday interactions, then there of course is a risk. But the good news is this. Okay, any healing work that you do, any conscious effort that propels you forward on your emotional growth line, generationally moves forward, just as stress and tensions and traumas do. When you become a conscious parent, and you can be more intentional, set better boundaries, guide your children in many aspects of their lives. When you do your personal work, your children also heal. Children, and this is also really, really important, that children also have their own life lessons through which they will strengthen and grow. So it's not always just because you are their parent or mother. They come in with lessons that are important to their growth and development as well. The next question is, why couldn't my mother love me in the way that I needed her to love me? Well, most women enter motherhood carrying unresolved trauma from their lives, or inherited trauma. And the connection between the struggles that they have and the unresolved trauma was never made. We are fortunate to live in a time where there is so much information available to us, sometimes too much, but how we're working with trauma, how we're taking a look at these generational patterns and early life patterns is really really fabulous, because a lot of healing is occurring. So it's possible that her relationship with her mom was stressed and detached. When you have a family where there's addictions, neglect, obesity, mental illness, attachment difficulties, or abuse, those behaviors, and there's more, like mental illness, I think I said that, are closely tied to unresolved trauma. Okay, so the good news is that it's easy to continue wanting the love that she couldn't give to you, but remember this: that is the need of the child part within you. There are solutions to assist body releases, to rebuild a sense of emotional security and attachment within yourself. So So there's a lot of ways that you can fill that void for yourself. I don't know what really happened in my family. Nobody talks about it. Can I ever know? Well, in this work, stories are important, but I don't rely on stories. I look at what happened. What are the undisputable facts in the family? Because when I hear of a specific event and maybe ask a few key questions, that pretty much tells me and allows me to associate what happened with what's happening with my client. So, uh, however, there is evidence. Okay, you have to look at, number one, what is discussed with an emotional overlay, and also what is not discussed. What topics are off limits? Because even if it's not discussed, even if there's a family secret, it creates environmental tension. You might ask yourself questions like, who or what is off limits in the family? It can be a topic or a certain person. And even people who were loved, if there was a tragic death, okay, they can be kind of moved out of their place in the family, especially if it was a child, or like in my case, when my mom died very suddenly. It's hard for me to realize today, but I understand why her name was rarely mentioned after she was buried. Maybe 2 or 3 times out of anger through my father. So that in and of itself, it gave me a perspective on the bomb that went off in our house. So sometimes when big tragedies and events that really disrupted the family, the family's ability to cope as it was coping and adapt to the changes, when something like that happens, it's easy to distance and not be able to put words to the trauma, but it continues to live in the physical body, in the tension and that you carry. So you may not know the facts, but regardless, it can be released and resolved even if you don't know. And that's the beauty of the work that I do, because sometimes I will tell clients that if there's something you don't want to talk about, we can still move towards a resolution if you just put your mind on it and you don't have to tell me about it. Okay, so another big question is, can I fix, rescue, or heal my mom? I think after listening to this, a part of you already knows the answer, and the answer is no. You have to heal yourself and your connection to her wound. As an adult, your pain, even if it was initiated by her, is now your responsibility. You have that power. As a child, we didn't have that. It's been my experience that even after the death of a mom, that some clients still long for approval or love or care from for someone who is deceased. I personally had to work through that after my mom's death as well. So if you're not ready, or another question is, do I have to forgive my mother? That's a big topic, and I look at it a little bit differently, and we can talk about that at another time. It has been my experience that that you don't have to do anything that you are not clear about or ready for with your mom. And that, sometimes clients will think that, well, that means they have to socialize and go to lunch. And my response is no, that you will know what you need to do in the right time. And sometimes I assist with those boundaries and patterns. The last question is, can I be a good enough mother even if I had a terrible childhood? Yes. It is never too late to know your family and to reset your life, whether it's through awareness and conscious decision making and healing. It's crucial because one can easily return to old patterning. Yet the important step here is that there is an agreement with what occurred, because you can't deny the facts that are presented, what occurred. And see, as an adult, and as you gain these perspectives, it gives you an opportunity to decide, how are you going to carry it within yourself? What aspects are you going to carry forward? Because the anger, the wounding, the frustration, and the lack of connection is actually more harmful to you. So you can allow your life to deplete you or to empower you. And maybe it's time for you to take a look at this wound in some way, because now, as an adult, see, the wound is no longer hers, it's yours. So you can find the right balance of understanding and compassion, and learn to love in the best way that you can, in your best ways. It's really wide open as you take a look at these issues. If I can be of assistance to you, you're more than welcome to contact me through my website. I also have the Ask Sana Anything question coming up this Tuesday night. You can send in a question, and I'm more than happy to answer it in a phone call where there's a small group of people. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I am Sana Carpelati, and it is a great day for a change. Yours. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and I will see you next week at 3 o'clock. Bye-bye. Oops.